I do not believe that it is anything big. I believe that he is going to be okay. Those are the words of Jose Mourinho when asked about Harry Kane's injury concerns following a knock taken to the knee by the striker in the Dinamo Zagreb game last night. Today, I'm joined by Chris Cowlin and Franco from the Cheese Room podcast to discuss Tottenham's victory in the Europa League and also preview the huge North London derby on Sunday. I'm Matt Hayes and you're listening to the Tottenham Fan Voice Podcast. Hello and welcome back to Matt Hayes' Tottenham blog and to another episode of the Tottenham Fan Voice Podcast. I'm Matt Hayes, your host, and if you want more from this channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button for live watch-alongs, previews, reviews, and much more. And also, if you are listening or new audience on audio podcast platforms, please make sure to follow the podcast. We are now part of the Sports Social Podcast Network, the UK's first dedicated sport podcast network. So make sure to go and check them out at www.sport-social.co.uk. But without further ado, let's dive straight into this one. I'm delighted to be joined by two fantastic guests. First of all, we have Franco from the Cheese Room podcast. Franco, thank you so much for joining us tonight. How are you getting on?
No problems, mate. Yeah, good. Glad to have got another week out of the way and really looking forward to this game on Sunday.
It's a big one. It's an absolutely massive one. Chris, are you looking forward to that one as well? Or is there a sense of dread about it?
How many supporters say they look forward to the North London derby? But no, I am. I think that we're in fantastic form right now. 5 wins on the spin, 4 clean sheets. But no better time to go into the North London derby. So, we've got to believe and got to go in there with full confidence.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about, believing you can go in and win that game. Now, we will be discussing the North London derby in detail a little bit later. But first of all, we are going to touch on Tottenham's 2-0 win against Dinamo Zagreb last night. Harry Kane was at the double to put Spurs to put one foot in the quarterfinal of the Europa League, brushing away the Croatian league leaders at the moment. Chris, it wasn't pretty, but it was effective, and we got the job done on the night, didn't we?
Yeah, I thought it was the perfect performance, the perfect result. Certainly, Harry Kane is just on fire. I just don't know what else all of us Tottenham fans can say about Harry Kane when he's creating the goals in his own half and then going up the other end to finish it off. Great work from Lamela. Some really good individual performances last night as well. But as I say, it's the perfect result to go into the North London derby and the perfect result to go into the second leg in the last 16. And we've got to have huge confidence now in this competition. Jose's taken us to a League Cup final, and I believe that he's going to take us all the way to the Europa League final in May.
I love the confidence, and I feel as though I'm in the same boat as you, to be honest, with the lack of competition really left in the tournament with Man United and AC Milan. I'd say the only other really strong teams left in there with Bayer Leverkusen and Napoli being knocked out in the last round. I think the path has been cleared somewhat for us to get through to that final. But Franco, Chris there touched on Eric Lamela, who is definitely a player who splits the fans' opinions. You either hate him or you love him. I personally am a big fan. I saw some strange stats about him last night. He hasn't completed a pass with his right foot all season, and of the 63 minutes that he was on the pitch last night, he didn't touch the ball with his right foot. He's a very one-footed player, but isn't he just like a typical Jose Mourinho player?
He's just that good that he has to use one foot. Otherwise it's unfair if he uses both on the other players. No, he is. In terms of work ethic, that's the thing that he's always been lauded for. We always know that he will run around a lot, but it's with real purpose. And I always say this, when you put him into a game off the bench, he injects that pace and that enthusiasm around the other players. And I just think his performances this year have been really good from the start, coming off the bench, whatever. He's put a shift in and he's had an impact on the game. He's still frustrating at times. He's always got those Lamela ball rolls that you don't need to be doing and things like that. But yeah, I don't think you can fault his performance last night. It was really good, lively, and had a big impact on the game as well.
And on those ball rolls, I saw another stat that I wasn't going to mention, but since you brought it up, he's completed a ball roll every 13.4 minutes this season. It's the Lamela specialty, but for once, it's starting to work. We've all seen him ball rolling his way into trouble, but he's actually finding that ability now to take the ball past the man. He's had some fantastic runs. Remember one against West Ham, one against Palace, where he's actually starting to beat men. He's creating chances. I do think he was unlucky not to get on that score sheet last night. But when Harry Kane is lurking, Chris, there's always going to be someone to put that ball in the back of the net. And for him now, it's 42 goal contributions in his last 37 games. Jose said he was going to make Harry Kane explode, and my God, he lived up to that promise. How does Harry Kane just keep getting better?
Unbelievable. He's an unbelievable player. He really is. to deliver, every single week like he does, is just incredible. And like I say, Matt, I just don't know what else we can say about Harry Kane now, because he just seems to get better and better and better. And to go back to Eric Lamela, in my opinion, I think that Eric Lamela's probably had the best month in a Tottenham shirt in his whole Tottenham career so far. He signed for us back in 2013, had his injury problems. Lots of Tottenham fans expected a lot more. But I think that all of this time, and the opinion on him is very mixed. But I think that give credit where credit is due. And I think that these last few weeks has probably been his best time at Tottenham in a Spurs shirt.
Yeah, I fully agree with you on that one. And I brought up this stat when I was on your channel last, Chris, that when we signed Lamela from Roma, there was a clause in his contract that we'd have to pay them an extra, I think it was £5 million when he scored 20 Premier League goals for Spurs. And 8 years later, we still haven't paid that. But, in a way, he's kind of starting to become that player that we bought from Roma, that fiery, tenacious kind of player who'll always get stuck in. And he's shown that side of the season already with, getting Anthony Martial sent off in that game against Manchester United. He is that kind of, like I said, that typical Jose player. He's cheeky and he'll do what it takes to win the game. And that is what we need in there right now. And it's not just him who's really starting to show that form. And Franco, for the first time this season, we do have what seems an abundance of options in that attacking area. We have, of course, Kane and Son, who are always the first two names in the team sheet. We've Gareth Bale hitting form now. We've Lamela, as we've touched on. Lucas starting to play really well. And Dele Alli as well coming back into the fray. Do you think we're now in a situation where it's almost impossible to pick the actual best four that we have?
To a degree, yeah. I mean, obviously, the big disappointment in that forward line is Bergwijn. I think most Spurs fans kind of hoped that he was going to kick on this season and be a real goal threat. And the fact he hasn't scored at all is probably really disappointing for him more than anybody else, because he's clearly got an eye for goal, banged in loads at PSV, so we're expecting that. But you're right, the rest of them, Bale especially now hitting form, it's the perfect time in this run-in at the end of the season. We've got some really important games coming up, and we needed somebody to take some of the load away from Kane and from Son. Son has maybe not been as dangerous in front of goal, but he's been contributing as much as ever. He's still deadly, and I think then to have somebody on that right-hand side in Bale, and then the two options of Lucas in that central spot, or Dele, or even Ndombele, we've just got so many different combinations that we can play in that forward line. You can even have Lamela come in there if you need some more bite. It's just, I think it's the different qualities of the players that we've got in those positions that make it so effective. And I think there's very few teams probably in the Premier League that can boast that as well. Like Man City have obviously got some great players, but I'm not sure they've quite got the same combinations that we do. Now they're all playing well. They're great. That's the thing. Just hope that they can continue the form, and we have a really strong end to the season.
Yeah, and look, people have been critical of Jose and the kind of football we're playing this season, but he has been blessed with the attacking options that he does have. Spurs are one of just two teams in Europe this season to have scored over 100 goals. Now, look, you can say there's stat padding when you're scoring like 5 against Marine, 5 against Wickham, and 7 against Ludogorets in the Europa League. But at the end of the day, you can only beat what's in front of you. And for the large part of this season, Spurs have done that with aplomb outside of the Premier League. But Chris, one of the reasons for that is how strong Jose has gone in these competitions. You can even go to the game that knocked us out of the FA Cup. It was still a very, very strong 11. Have you been surprised by how keen Jose Mourinho has to play those full strength squads against lower level oppositions in the Europa League? Or do you think it's down to that winning mentality he has, and it's why he has so many trophies in his cabinet?
It's definitely that. It's definitely why he's won so many trophies. That's what I love about Jose Mourinho. When he come to Tottenham, obviously I didn't want Pochettino to go. I felt very sad about that situation. But when Jose come in, you felt as a Tottenham fan that he's going to take these cup competitions seriously. He's won every cup in the land. He always wants to make sure that we deliver and we get that result that we need to get into the next round. And that's why I'm so confident that we're going to lift a trophy this season. We have to, because the trophies are way, way overdue. We say that, a lot, because 13 years without a trophy now at the club is just unbelievable. We've got to be putting a trophy in the cabinet. But Jose does take these competitions seriously. I thought last night against Dinamo Zagreb, I think that Jose Mourinho must be given huge credit, because he managed the game very, very well. He put out a very strong 11 and then brought on, even stronger players in the second half to manage the game very well. And of course, taking Harry Kane off as well at the end. But I think that he will get us over that line.
It's exactly what we need, and I always say it. I started supporting Spurs the week after we last won a trophy, so I'll take full blame for that trophy drought, as long as I get full credit next time we do win a trophy. But look, if one man is going to help us to a trophy, it will be Harry Kane. And we had a lot of concern last night when he was taken off after picking up a knock to his knee. Jose Mourinho was asked about that after the game, and he said, let's see the reaction tomorrow, but hopefully he will be fine. And later he was interviewed by BT Sport, and he said, I do not believe it is anything big. It is a match on Sunday that everybody wants to play, and little things are not going to stop them to play. I do not have that feeling that there is concern. I believe that he's going to be okay. Music to the ears of Spurs fans that Kane, the highest scorer in North London Derby Premier League history, will more than likely be on the pitch for this one against Arsenal. And look, we touched on a few stats there, just bring in another one. Among Premier League players in all competitions this season, Harry Kane has scored the most goals with 26 and also made the joint most assists with 16. He's already surpassed his goal tally for the last couple of seasons. Franco, is he the best player in the Premier League?
Yes.
There we go.
That's it. I don't need to say much more, do I? I just feel like he lots of Spurs fans don't think he gets the appreciation he deserves, and obviously from us either. Like the stat I saw today, hasn't got Player of the Year at Spurs since 2015, was it, or 16? Wow. Which is mad. And I know, like, it's like we just got used to having him there, just banging in 20 plus goals per season. It's phenomenal. We've not seen a player like this in our lifetime. Most people that are like 40 years old won't have seen a player as effective as him in their lifetime. And it's not just the goals, like you said, the assists have come this year as well. Just his all-round play is just phenomenal. And last night was a prime example of what you get from Kane. He was just offering for the ball all around the pitch, his defensive duties. I think when Dyer went off, he kind of slipped back into helping in defence. How many corners does he clear as well? It's just amazing. His all-round contribution to Spurs is phenomenal, and he's talismanic in that sense. And I just think we need to appreciate it. I did hear some people saying that, in the closed season, maybe we should think about selling Kane at some point and rejuvenating the squad. I just think it's madness. You never let a player like that leave unless he's demanding it. And at the moment, I don't think that he will be. But sort of touching on what you said about trophies, I do think that we need to start, looking like we're going to get a trophy and definitely win one this season to keep him interested in staying at Spurs, because we need to realise his ambitions as one of the greatest players in England.
Yeah, I fully agree on that one. Wayne Banner here is coming in with a £5 super chat. Wayne, thank you so much for that. Says Jose hasn't won all those trophies without reason. Do you all think we can get top four and win the League Cup, Europa League, or win the League Cup and Europa League? Chris, in a word in each of those, do you think we'll get top four?
I think it's going to be very difficult. I really do. That spell of losing 5 out of 6, I'd love to be sitting here saying, yes, absolutely. I tried to remain positive as I can be as a Spurs fan. But when we lost those 5 out of 6 Premier League games, I felt that was a really dismal spell for us. And I felt that was going to end our top 4 hopes. But you never know. This Premier League season is a mad season. You never, ever know. And that's another reason why I think that Jose is taking the Europa League very, very seriously. We all know that he's been in the competition twice as a manager. He's won it twice. And, that's why I believe that he will take us all the way. Because, like you said, he takes this competition very seriously, or the Cups very seriously. And I think if we're going to get Champions League football next season, I think we've got better chance of winning the Europa League, particularly with the opponents left in the competition, rather than finishing in the top 4. But the League Cup, anything can happen as well. I feel positive about it. I know Manchester City are a very, very good side of, full of quality, but I do have just a feeling about it. It's no secret that at the start of the season, I booked my flight and I booked my accommodation for Poland for the Europa League final. I was that confident then. So I'm remaining that confident.
I love it. There's nothing better than a confidence from coming from a Spurs fan like that. It's absolutely fantastic. Franco, what are your thoughts on those 3?
I think I agree. Look, we'll know in about 3 games' time whether top 4's a possibility. I think Chelsea are the ones that are going to make it difficult for us. Tuchel's come in and they look half decent now. They're not losing games. Obviously, that win against Liverpool the other week, they're kind of putting their marker out, and I think they'll be difficult for us to catch them. And yeah, there's a few games this season you look back on, like most recently the West Ham game. I felt we could have won that. Obviously, we had the earlier games of the season, the West Ham game, Newcastle. Was it Burnley as well, and like drawing against Fulham and stuff like that. The games that we should have won, we should have done. And if we were playing, but we've just had so many peaks and troughs in our form this season. It's quite amazing that we're still in the race for it, to be honest. And if you'd have asked me about 3 weeks ago, I probably would have said, put everything on Europa League. That's our biggest chance. But now I think we're basically like eggs in both baskets. It's difficult. So we'll see how the next few games go, and then we'll know. But the fact that we won 2-0 last night, means that the away day, we should get through that as long as we don't have a complete mare on the night. So again, that's only a few games and we're in a cup final, and there's a very good chance there. Man City will be tough in the league. I'm never going to go into that and say, yeah, we're probably going to win that. I think we're definitely the underdogs. But you never know. We've beaten them this season, and they struggled against us that game. If we could pull off something similar, then by all means we could win that. But I think if I was going to put my money on any of them, I'd probably say Europa League is the most likely.
Yeah, look, I fully echo the sentiments of the 2E, and in knockout football, over 90 minutes, anything can happen. And I do like to think we have the knockout king in our dugout in Jose Mourinho. As Chris said, in the Europa League twice, he's won it twice. He wins trophies for fun, and he's done it at every club before, so I don't see why he wouldn't do it at Spurs. Wayne with another £2 super chat says, love Chris's confidence. Wayne, thank you so much for the support and the channel. I love Chris's confidence as well. And if anyone else does want to support the channel with a super chat, just hit that $sign beside the chat button down below, and it'll guarantee your question is answered or your comment is read out. Before we do move on to the derby, I see a few people asking about Chris. I just want to ask you quickly, Harry Kane, is this Jose Mourinho mind games, or do you think he will be fit for the game on Sunday?
Absolutely, he's going to be fit. There's no question whatsoever that Harry Kane has an injury for that game on Sunday. He will be there, and he will be scoring a goal in that North London derby again. No question. Yeah,
Kane would play on crutches if he had to.
Look, it was encouraging that last night he was taking the ice off that knee before the game did end. If it was an ankle injury, I'm sure we'd all be sitting here saying he's out for 2 years. But since it is only on that knee, I think we can have an element of confidence that he will be in that game on Sunday. One question people are asking is, will Lo Celso be in the squad for the Arsenal game? He won't be. He's actually Tottenham's only confirmed injury concern for this one. It's not the hamstring injury that's kept him out for the last few months. Within his rehab, he's had a little bit of pain in his back, so he will be out for another few weeks on that one. I think for me, he's running the risk of becoming another Eric Lamela of 3-4 years ago, and it's just a constant injury, not really living up to the expectation that we do have on him. But it's time to get down to business. It's time to talk about the North London derby. Of course, on Sunday, Spurs travel to the Emirates Stadium for what is a huge game, not only because it's the North London derby, but also Spurs trying to get back into that top four race. Wayne here with another £2 says Kane will play. He did it wearing a mask in that 2016-17, or is it 2015-16? Scored that cracker of a goal from the left-hand side of the box. He'll always get it in that North London derby. Just to run through a few stats ahead of this one. Arsenal are winless in their last 5 meetings with Tottenham in all competitions. They've never gone 6 without a win against Spurs before. They've lost just 2 of their last 35 home league games against Spurs, winning 19 and drawing 14 of those. So a record away to Arsenal is abysmal, to say at the least. However, we are looking to win 3 consecutive league games against Arsenal for the first time since October 1974 and seal a first league double over them since 92-93. And finally, having won the first 4 of our away league games this season, Tottenham have won just 2 of their subsequent 9 on the road in the Premier League. Meanwhile, having scored 11 in our opening 2 away league games, we've scored 10 since then in our last 11 away from home. Chris, let's touch on that away form first of all, because things on the road in the Premier League started better than any of us could have dreamed of. It's like playing a FIFA career mode on beginner difficulty. We scored 5 against Southampton, and we went to Old Trafford and we scored 6. But since then, the goals on the road have dried up and the points have gone with them. What do you think can account for that decline of form from Spurs?
I think there's a whole host of reasons, to be honest. But I think that we're going to go into this game very differently. You can talk about form all you like, going into North London derby. As soon as that game kicks off, all of the form goes out of the window, and then it is all about the passion. It's all about the grit and determination of winning that game. And I'm just very sad that us fans are not in the stadium to see it. I was one of the very lucky ones to see us beat Arsenal 2-0 earlier this season at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and I think that it really helped us being in the stadium. And I think that the players really felt the fans there. But it's going to be a very difficult game on Sunday. We've only ever won once at the Emirates Stadium in the Premier League, and we've got to start putting these records to bed and start improving these records against these sides. And no disrespect to Arsenal at all, but they're a mid-table team now. They're 10th. They're not the sort of team that we used to perhaps fear, going there thinking it's a very difficult game. They've had a very mediocre season. They've won 11, they've lost 11. You never know what you're going to get with them. So Tottenham have to have the belief, particularly that the form, I know I've just said the form goes out the window, but it gives a lot of the players a lot of confidence going into this game. And like both of you said earlier, the players now that Jose Mourinho has, the options he has, with every player coming into form as well, we've got to start going to some of these away grounds and getting results. And, if we want any chance of finishing in that top four, you have to be winning games like this.
Absolutely. It's the games against I suppose what is the traditional Big Six, but as you say, they're not a Big Six team anymore. And I think we've they absolutely are. And look, we've had this discussion, I think, as Spurs fans a lot over the last couple of years that Arsenal have dropped out of that top four since the resignation of Arsene Wenger. But for me, it's always been with them that they should have been higher than where they were. But this season, for the first time, I'm looking at Arsenal and I'm looking at the players they have at their disposal, and I'm struggling to see that they should be higher than where they are. I honestly do think that squad is a mid-table squad. Now, look, this may come back to bite me if they come out and beat us 3-0 on Sunday. I don't think they will, but at the end of the day, they don't deserve to be in the top of the league where they have been for so long. Their manager isn't up to that level either. And speaking of managers, Wayne Bonner with another £2 says, Jose has Arsenal sussed, 3 points incoming. Franco, we all know Jose's incredible record against Arsenal. He's, if I remember correctly, he's the first Spurs manager to win his first 2 North London derbies. And in contrast, Mikel Arteta is the first Arsenal manager to lose his first 2. But the Emirates Stadium is a playground for Jose, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Chris pointed out that we don't have a great record there. But I do wonder in lockdown whether not having a crowd there really means that it's just a game of football, isn't it? Does it really mean it's an away game at the Emirates or not? Because the Arsenal fans, as quiet as they are for the majority of games, they will always turn up and be rowdy for a Spurs match. And that does add to it, definitely. But yeah, Jose's a much better manager. And like you said, you look through the Arsenal squad. I was looking at it before, because I'm sure you're going to ask me some questions about their players. And I was just running down going, which one of these is a threat? Which one of these do I really rate? And there's very few in that team at the moment. You compare that to the great Arsenal side from a decade ago, and it's not even anywhere near the same level. They've got a few aging superstars. Obviously, they've got a few youngsters like Saka coming through. But you compare that to our squad, I don't think they're comparable. And they've been on relatively good form recently, but so are we. So it's a really interesting game. The thing that's going to, I think, be most compelling about it is how we approach it, because obviously the home game, we were very defensive. We let them have a lot of the possession and we were just defending resolutely, similar to the Man City game. But recently, I think since the West Ham game, probably, Jose sort of seems to have just allowed a bit more attacking freedom. And we're playing much better offensive football. We look a lot more dynamic. And the players are much happier. It's weird how things have just turned around in the space of a few games and, like you say, banging in goals for fun. So it's going to be a really interesting game at the weekend, and I hope we go for it, and I hope we smash them.
Oh, I do as well. And speaking of how quickly things have turned around, I was looking at the Premier League table the other day, and they have the kind of form guide on the side of it. And Spurs actually have the longest winning run of any team in the Premier League right now. 3 games in a row is more than any other team. Chelsea are the only other side who've won more than 1 game in a row. It's bizarre. It just goes to show how competitive the league has been this season. Probably because the better teams are not as good as they used to be, rather than the rest of the league kind of catching up. But it is a case of any team that can really string a few wins together a good month or two is probably going to be that team to creep into the top 4, because you can look at Leicester in typical Brendan Rodgers style, potentially falling away at the end of the season. Chelsea, I think, have had that new manager bounce under Thomas Tuchel. I'm not sure how much longer that is going to last. But credit to them, they're playing really, really good football and deserving the results that they're getting. But I really don't think the top 4 that's in place now is going to be the top 4 that's there at the end of the season. But I feel we have to have that confidence that we can get in there, because once our players are fit and firing, I do think we can really go at Arsenal and hurt them. And one of those players that I think can hurt them, Chris, is Gareth Bale, because if you look back at his time, particularly in his first spell at Spurs, and even his first year or two really in the first team, it was goals against Arsenal that really got him going. And having been rested for the majority of that game on Thursday, he's going to be well and truly up for us. Do you think he can be the difference for Spurs on Sunday?
Absolutely. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Gareth Bale stepped up and got Tottenham's winner on Sunday, because he is in great form right now. Of course, we all expected so much more of him when he come back at Hotspur Way. All of us so excited about him returning. It hadn't quite worked out, but these last month or two, as he's now in exceptional form, and this is the sort of form that we want to see him in. This is the sort of form that puts huge smiles on our faces, and he's a big game player. Arsenal might be a mid-table club right now, but it's a big game in terms of being the North London derby, being the game you have to win, being the game that every single Spurs fan, Jose Mourinho, and every single Spurs player wants to win. And if you need players to step up to the plate, experienced players who have been there, done it, worn the T-shirt and won every trophy in the land, Gareth Bale is your man. And when we talk about options, and you two have spoke about options earlier, today, when you've got Eric Lamela in his form, you've got Lucas Moura in his form, Heung-min Son, Harry Kane, their combination, Gareth Bale as well. There are so many options that Jose Mourinho has, and this is an excellent headache for a manager to have, especially going into these sorts of matches.
Yeah, and it's a far cry from where we were earlier in the season, because I remember speaking so much about, it was going to be Kane up front, Son on the left back when we were in that 4-3-3. The option was that right winger, and it was almost, well, who's the worst option between Bergwijn and Lucas that you want to avoid, because no one was really able to solidify that place down there. And thankfully, we do have now a number of players who are fighting for that position. We have another £5 here from Wayne Bonner, says, I remember that 3-2 win at the Emirates from 2-0 down. For those on audio podcast, he remembers it for very personal reasons, but we will leave it at that one. Franco, Chris there kind of touched on Lucas and how he's kind of burst into form lately, but it's in the number 10 role rather than out on that right hand side where he made a name for himself at Brazil and PSG. Are you surprised that Lucas has found form in the centre of the park, or do you think with his style of play that it's a position that kind of suits him more?
No, because he's always cutting in when he's out wide anyway. That's the thing we moan about him the most. It's just he always seems to run into traffic. It's weird because he was a winger at PSG, but he came to Spurs and he always seemed to want to cut in, and then Poch tried to accommodate him in a central sort of striking position with Kane for a while, didn't he? So you were never really sure what his favoured position was. And he's been played on the left a few times this season as well, which I don't think is right for him. So I think the parts of his game like closing down and stuff like that, he puts in an amazing amount of tackles for a really small guy, an amazing amount of headers for a small guy as well. Yeah. There's things about his game that you don't necessarily appreciate because you just think he's a fast sort of direct player. I still think he's got the propensity to run into trouble and to take too many touches and things like that. But in that position, just his energy, I think, in the closing down in that game was really important. And if he's utilised at the weekend, I can see him doing that as well. Because let's be honest, like Arsenal's defence isn't great. Xhaka on the ball isn't brilliant. So I think if we can put them under pressure when they're in possession, then that could pay dividends for us. So it'd be interesting to see if he plays because Dele's obviously another option at the moment coming back into form.
Yeah, look, I'm personally a huge fan of Dele Alli, and there's even the whole way through that bad spell he had. There's nothing that I'd like to see more than him kind of get back into that Spurs team and become that player that we know he can be. But at the moment, as much as I do love Ali, I think Lucas just is the better option in that number 10. And it's great to see a player who has been here for is it just over 2 years now and has struggled to find that form finally starting to get going. And it's fantastic. And again, he could be a very important player for us on Sunday. But something else that'll be very important, Chris, we'll come to you on this one, is the defensive partnership that Jose goes with. In the last 3 Premier League games, it's been Toby and Sanchez, who, look, for me, I never thought that would be the partnership that would make it for us this season, because Toby's an aging player. Sanchez is he's very error prone, but we almost have to play that pair on Sunday to win this game, in my opinion. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with it. However, I do think that Eric Dyer will come in for this game. I don't know why. I've just got that feeling that Jose will fancy Eric Dyer in this match. But I completely agree. I think that the best defensive partnership, particularly in the last few games where we've been winning as well, is Sanchez and Toby. I like to see Toby in the centre there. I think that he is, without any doubt, the best defender, the best central defender at the club, and it just puts a bit more confidence into me as a Tottenham fan watching our club with him on the pitch. Yeah,
and look, I suppose I do agree that there is a chance we'll see Eric Dyer. There's people in the live chat do not want to see that. But I think for me, when we do see that lineup, when it's Toby and Dyer, I think we're going to play defensive football and look to head the balls out from the box. But when it's Sanchez, because he does have that that element of recovery pace that perhaps the other two don't, I feel then it's more attacking football and looking to have him recovering, if it's with Aurier and Reguilon in the fullback positions. Wayne making his opinion very clear here. Toby and Sanchez on Sunday, no Dyer, please. Wayne, again, thank you so much for the super chat. But look, Sanchez is just that recovery player, and he's error prone. I think he's poor in possession. He makes mistakes out of possession. His positioning isn't the best, but somehow he's just made it work. And we've won our last 3 Premier League games with him in there. But either side of those centre backs, Franco, is going to be the fullbacks, which again is a really big decision for Jose. It was, of course, Sergio Aurier has been in and out of the team in recent weeks. Sergio Reguilon just back from injury. Do you think it has to be Reguilon and Aurier, or do you see a little bit of a curveball coming from Jose?
No, I would choose those two, definitely. I've just not been impressed by Doherty this season. I know he's played relatively well in his last game, but that's the first game in absolutely ages where I haven't moaned about him. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and I don't like the fact that on a weekly basis, there's a player there every single time where I just go, why can't you be better? Do you know? And the fact that Aurier has stepped up his game. There are a lot of people saying that he's done that, but I don't know whether it's just Aurier looks better in comparison. Like last night, Aurier was really good. I thought he got in those positions well, put in a few balls. Neither of their crossing seems to be quite as good as it could be, but we've got Reggie on the left, and there's one thing Reggie does brilliantly is put in a ball. So I think he's a definite for that game, and I think his pace as well just helps us. It makes us look so much more dynamic on the counter attack and stuff like that. It gives us an option. So I think it will almost certainly be those two. But the thing is that I can't see Arsenal attacking down that side too much down the right, because I just think Bale will be occupying Tierney too much. Tierney likes to get forward, and if he's occupied by Bale and we can keep them on the back foot, then our fullback shouldn't be too busy anyway, and hopefully they can be a bit more attacking. So yeah, I would definitely like to see Aurier and Reggie play.
Yeah, look, for me, I feel I'm only ever confident going into a game when it is the two of those. If you see one of Doherty or Davis, there's always the fear that something will go wrong there. And in the past, things have gone wrong. It must be payday for Wayne Bonner, because he's come in with another £2 super chat. Says, get your super chats in, folks. Please do that $sign beside the live chat. Make sure to smash it and get a super chat in. Wayne keeps coming with another $2. Or another £2. Says, do you give Doherty a second season? Chris, we'll come to you on that one. He's not been the player we thought he was going to be. Looks a lot better at Wolves than he has at Spurs. Is it down to the change of system, or do you think it's just not his level?
Yeah, I think it's a very different level, to be honest. Very disappointing. As Franco said, he's absolutely right. Very disappointing since he's arrived from Wolves. But I would say, give credit where credit is due. The fullbacks last night against Dinamo Zagreb, I thought both of them done exceptionally well. Ben Davies defensively, Serge Aurier, made Harry Kane's second goal. I know it was a defensive mistake, but he put a great ball in from Tanguy Ndombele. And Serge Aurier, with his crossing ability, I think that you have to put him in for a game like this against Arsenal. Sergio Reguilon, I'd like to see in the starting lineup, every single time. But when players like Ben Davies come in, it's all about taking opportunities in competitions like the Europa League, and we saw it. And give credit where credit is due, because he had a good game last night.
And that's the thing about Davies. He gets a lot of stick, but he has a number of good games a season. Yeah. And he just has a number of bad ones. Do you know what I mean? And he's reliable. And I think that's the difference when you see Reggie, is just how much more dynamic he is. And that pace really does matter.
Yeah, for me, I think one of the key things that kind of holds Davis back is he seems reluctant to get forward. Like at Reguilon, he can almost smell the danger, smell that opportunity to make that burst down the left-hand side. And when we get into that position where we can feed the ball out there, Reguilon is already there. Whereas with Davis, he's kind of hesitating, and he almost needs to know the ball is going to come to him before he does make that burst. And look, maybe that's kind of a result of the way we played last season, when he was almost a third centre-back, allowing Aurier really push on into a right-wing position. Maybe there's still kind of remnants of those tactics there. But I think in the way we're playing this season, having that attacking fullback is so much more important. And Wayne here with another £2 says, how did you know it was payday, lol? Just a lucky guess, I suppose, Wayne. Thank you again, as the Id Kid says, Wayne killing the super chats. But look, as Franco, you said you've looked at the Arsenal team. They have players like Kieran Tierney, who you've already mentioned, of course, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, up to 9 Premier League goals this season after a very slow start. But for me, what I'm most interested in with this Arsenal team is that it took the likes of players like Bukayo Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe to come into this team to turn their season around. And when they're a team who claim to be a big a team as they do, shouldn't it be the kind of more experienced players taking the season by the scruff of the neck? Like, would you be concerned from an Arsenal front that it's the younger players who are turning the season around?
Yes. When I looked at the Arsenal squad, do you know who's played the most minutes of an outfield player? It is him. It is Mr. Saka. It's insane. You've got a 19-year-old who you're basically relying on to be the most ever-present player in your squad. And he's played in nearly every single position down the left-hand side. He's played on the right-hand side as many times as well. He's been played in the centre. He's just... he is a very good player, but I do feel like that he's, they're putting a lot of pressure on him to be one of the most important players in the team. And this season, when Aubameyang's not been brilliant, Pepe, he's played
him, to be honest.
He's played 10 games. I think he started. He's been on the bench more often than he started, and he was their marquee signing. I just think they've not bought particularly well, and they're lucky that they've got. Youngsters coming through, like you say, like Smith Rowe as well, coming through and sort of doing the goods for them. They're probably not elite. They're probably not on some of the Man City players' level or something like that, but they're very good players. And Arsenal do well to hold on to him, is what I would say.
Yeah, look, to be honest, I had this discussion last night on my live watch along for the game against Dinamo Zagreb, that as much as a team can be in bad form, you can look at them and think they're worse than you, they always do have their threats, because every team has to have a player who can turn a game around for them. And with Zagreb, it's the likes of Mislav Orsic or Bruno Petkovic. But with Arsenal, they do have quality in there, and that's what Spurs need to be aware of. And Wayne here asking with another £2, Wayne, you are incredible, says, do you see any Arsenal players being a threat? Chris, if you had to pick out one player for Arsenal that you think could cause Spurs big problems tomorrow, who would it be?
It would have to be Aubameyang. I thought that Tottenham should have signed him when he was at Dortmund. He looks a great player then. He's coming to the Premier League. A lot of Arsenal fans say that he's the real deal and he's a great player and he's better than Harry Kane and all this nonsense, which is absolutely crazy. But we know what Aubameyang can do. He scored goals in the Premier League, and if we can keep him quietly, our defence can look after him, then I think that we'll go on to win the game on Sunday, because I don't feel that Arsenal do have that greater quality throughout their squad. When you look at their players compared to ours, there is a huge quality difference. I know we're 7 points clear of Arsenal in the Premier League table, but like I keep saying, they're a mid-table club at the moment, and I don't think that Arsenal have got a better squad than, say, Burnley, Crystal Palace, Southampton. I think they're that sort of quality.
There's my soundbite for this podcast anyway. I love a bit of Arsenal slander. Wayne Bonner here, another £2, says Pepe is the Arsenal version of Winks. And look, I think some Spurs fans say it's the worst criticism you can give to a man. But I suppose on the point of Winks, Franco, we might as well touch a bit on the midfield. I hope and I assume it will be Højbjerg and Ndombele in that double pivot for Spurs, with one of Lucas or Ali playing a little bit further in front. But Arsenal then have the likes of Granit Xhaka, who last weekend against Burnley humiliated himself, not for the first time in an Arsenal jersey. They then have the likes of their loanees in Dani Ceballos and Martin Odegaard. They have quality in there, but if this is a game that comes down to the midfield battle, do you think Spurs have the edge with the likes of Højbjerg and Ndombele in there?
Yeah, I think so. Like you say, Xhaka, he's another one of their virtually ever-present players, but he's just so inconsistent, and he always has a propensity to do stupid things in big games as well. And Partey has been not as good as he was before he signed, basically. He was better in Spain. I think that he's failed to deliver on what they kind of expected he would do. Odegaard is the one that's frustrating, because I think he looks pretty good and he's playing fairly well recently, and he is tricky. He's the sort of player that Spurs don't really like to deal with. And in terms of who we play in there, it depends how we approach the game. If we're going to be defensive, then I see Sissoko in there, and maybe Ndombele plays in that 10 spot instead. But otherwise, I would ideally like to see Højbjerg and Ndombele and then go for it. Yeah, you're right. We've got to. I just think we've got to treat Arsenal with the disrespect they deserve. That they've got players that can be dangerous on their day, and they've got pace in that side, which is going back early. I think that's why we'll play Sanchez to deal with the threat of Aubameyang maybe, and that's it really. It's weird. Their squad depth again is really poor. They've got Willian. So I don't really like to talk about Willian because he always scores against Spurs. But he hasn't scored all season either. He's like our Bergwijn. He's just not delivered for them. And beyond that, they've not really got many other options. So if they're one or two of their sort of key players like Lacazette or Aubameyang aren't playing well, then most of their threat disappears. I'm amazingly confident for the game at the weekend, which is probably a bad thing because I tend to get these things wrong.
As a Spurs fan, it's always the hope that gets you. Exactly. But surprisingly, I was actually speaking to an Arsenal fan in work today, and Willian has created the most big chances out of any of their players this season, which I'm not sure if that's a compliment to Willian.
Yeah, he's got assists this season, but it's just no goals, which is surprising for him because he doesn't normally contribute. He's got a decent shot on him, but he's just not been that effective in front of goal this season.
Yeah, but as you said,
hat trick on Sunday.
I was going to say he hasn't played against Spurs yet, so that could quickly change. Chris Wayne, here's a question for you. It's a question that managers have been struggling to answer for the last 10, 12 years, and I'm sure Sacramento and Mourinho will be listening closely to your answer here. But how would you keep Aubameyang quiet?
Eric Dyer sliding tackle.
Yeah, exactly. Sliding tackles. Do you know what, Matt? I want to see a number of yellow cards on Sunday. I want to see the real passion in this North London derby. I want Tottenham to give absolutely everything, 100% and nothing less. But Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, as you both talked about there, he is going to be the key to this game. Any attacking play from Arsenal, he is going to be picking up the pieces and doing what he does best, because he has been an exceptional signing for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club from Southampton in the summer. Hugely, impressed with him, and I think that he will be, a future Tottenham Hotspur captain. But I think it's all going to be about him in the centre of the park.
And Ndombele as well, because we need a performance from him. This is the one thing about him. He needs to remember that he was our marquee signing. He's been paid a lot of money, and it's these games where we need him to step up, and he can boss that midfield. He really can. He could make Xhaka look absolute pony if he wanted to, like the amount of skill he's got. So I'd really like to see a big performance from him as well, with Højbjerg basically in support.
But it was funny last night, the way Dinamo Zagreb, they really targeted Tanguy Ndombele. He spent half the night on the floor because of the challenges coming in, and he was just so skillful for them. It was great to see. And as you say, Franco, it's like he's a brand new signing, particularly after his very disappointing season last year.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris, on your point about the yellow cards and potentially this being an aggressive game, Spurs and Arsenal are the two teams in the Premier League who have drawn the most yellow cards off opposition teams. So Spurs have had 60 yellow cards from opposing teams, and Arsenal have 53. So look, I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I think I'd be looking for a few yellow cards in this one. It could be, and look, that's what we want to see. That's the North London derby we want to see. Football has become a game now where if you touch a player, they get a penalty. But at times you can punch the ball in the box. It's not a handball. It's not going to be, or because we'll be here all night. But that's what we want to see. We want another battle of the bridge, but maybe with us getting the 3 points. That's what we want to see, and that's what Jose I think will be looking for with this team as well. We've got Kai here coming in with the $2 super chat. Kai, thank you very much. I really, really do appreciate that one. But look, I know some people don't like to do it, but we're going to get into some score predictions here. If you don't want to, obviously you don't have to. Some people have traditions for not putting them in because they feel as though it jinxes the team. But Franco, we'll come to you first. If you had to put a scoreline on this game, what would you say?
Yeah, I don't believe in jinxes, so it's fine. I've done I do a predictor league every week. I've gone with a 2-1 Spurs win. That's what I'm going for.
I love it. Chris?
I'm going for 3-2 Spurs. I think the last time we won there, or the only time we won there in the Premier League, back in 2010, we won 3-2, and I'm going to go for the same again.
I love it. I'm feeling it won't be a Yunus Kabul winner this time, but it could be someone coming up from the back, maybe getting a hit on a free kick or something.
Sanchez.
Oh God, if it was one of them, they could do whatever they want for the rest of the season. If they score a winner at Emirates, they're an instant club hero.
See, that's it. Sanchez probably needs it because the amount of abuse he gets. He's had a few good games. If he tops it off with a goal against Arsenal, all will be forgiven.
Absolutely. I think for me, the thing that sums up Davinson Sanchez the most is in that FA Cup game against Everton, he scored twice but was still the worst player on the pitch. It's baffling how he manages to do it, but he can make amends if he does put in a big performance against Arsenal on Sunday. We've Wayne here coming in with another £2, says 3-0 Spurs as your score prediction. Simon Cohen says 3-1 to Spurs, and Jack says a 2-1 win for Spurs. Hugo to save a late penalty like he did at Wembley a few years back. But look, as we said, Arsenal haven't beaten us in their last 5 attempts, so why not make that 6 for the first time in history? Everyone, make sure to get your score predictions there in the live chat. But from us, I suppose we will wrap it up there. It's been an absolutely fantastic show. Chris and Franco, thank you very much for your time. We'll come to you very quickly if you do want to promote your socials. Franco, let us know where we can find you.
Yeah, I mean, our big one is Facebook. Facebook is just look up the Cheese Room Podcast, but we're also on Twitter, Instagram. We've got a YouTube channel, which we're on occasionally, but otherwise we're available on all of the main podcast providers. Just look for the Cheese Room Podcast.
And Chris, look, I mean, I'm sure you don't need to come on, as I said, either of you come on a channel like this and talk up your stuff, but do you want to let us know where we can find you on social media?
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for having me on Instagram and Twitter at Chris Cowlin, and then on YouTube, Tottenham Fan Chris Cowlin.
And I highly recommend to everyone watching, everybody listening, to go over and check these two guys out. It's been an absolute pleasure for me having them on the channel tonight. I just want to say, look, I'm sure everyone knows about me, but if you do want more content like this, plus live watch-alongs, Tottenham previews, reviews, transfer talk videos, any Spurs content you could want, make sure to smash that subscribe button down below. You can find me on Twitter at Matt Hayes THFC. And as we said earlier on, this is the first podcast since we have joined the Sports Social Podcast Network, the UK's first dedicated sports podcast network. So on the majority of the big podcast platforms, you can go over and listen to us there. Anyone, if you are listening on Spotify or anything else, please check me out on YouTube at Matt Hayes Tottenham Blog. But from the three of us tonight, it's been an absolute pleasure. To two of you again, thank you very much. To everyone who's watched, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers, Matty.